that's fine too.
I will defer to your expertise. If what comes out of everything appeals to you, then you can run with it.
Fair enough. So let's have a
Yeah,
conversation. I wanted to
yeah,
learn so much from you. I did a lot of research and I've put together a few questions. I want to be
awesome.
respectful of your time too. If we need to schedule another call, I'll send you all the resources. And if you're interested in having a second conversation, that would be awesome.
Sounds good, man.
Awesome,
Sounds
Rick.
like a plan.
Let's get started. We only have
Sure.
30 minutes. Give me about your background.
Yeah, a little bit about me. So obviously, my name is Rick Luevanos. Career software engineer, product builder. I've run the ladder from individual contributor on through to executive leadership. I've
Awesome.
worked in gaming, streaming media, did e-commerce. Most of my recent focus has been connected health and fitness. So right now, I'm splitting my time between with the healthcare provider Kaiser Permanente, helping their teams get some AI products off the ground, and then my fractional CTO efforts under FulcraWorks, where I'm helping companies, their teams, figure out how to properly execute and get their own products built and shipped. I'm a husband, I'm a father, I have a couple of kids here at home right now, 8 and 12 years old. They're on spring break, so if it gets loud or chaotic, this was your warning.
No, that's cool. My
Yeah,
my kids are around the same age, 12 and 10.
yeah,
So it's perfect. It's perfect
right
spot. I
on.
do understand. Which part of the country are you from, Rick?
I am in Southern California in Orange County.
That's cool. That's cool. My
Yeah,
wife loves that place. I've never
yeah.
been there, but yeah, we'd love to travel.
Weather's a little weird right now, but it's California,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
it's always pretty decent.
yeah, yeah. Cool. Thank you so much for that intro. Really
No
appreciate you.
problem.
Um, I've reached out to 100 people, and then about 20% of them have actually responded back, and you're
Yeah,
one of the very few that actually went ahead and booked the call. So I really appreciated it.
awesome, awesome. No, no, it was my pleasure.
Cool. Absolutely. Let's get started, Rick. I have a few questions that I really want to learn from you.
Sure.
So, while doing some research, you often talk about this growth sequencing framework, right? I really loved that. So, you talk about growth and scale needing to be very sequenced intentionally, right? And most CTOs just say move fast, walk us through the time. Um, at your previous companies, I don't want to take the names, but where getting the sequence wrong almost broke the team engineering org.
Yeah, yeah. Great question. So I think the two companies that come to mind, especially when it comes to scale, right? Because I think it's that hyper growth is where you're going to see some of that sequencing come into play. Um, there were a couple of companies where I did uh, uh, work through some of the scale. Fight Camp, connected fitness company, was scale there was more about technology and infrastructure. At Swift, also connected fitness. A lot of scale there was around people, and one was a newer company working to launch a new and better product, while the other was coming out of a huge funding round and building out new teams fast, right? And in either case, we were confronted with a complexity problem. And usually, when you're talking about sequencing, the order in which you're going to do things, you're kind of looking at how you're going to approach that scale. So if you look at it from like a people perspective, which was mainly Swift, you think about team topology, for example, uh, before headcount. After a funding round, hire, build new teams.
That's right.
But the goal is going to be to put the right people in the right seats.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to know what those seats are,
That's true.
right? So just kind of a small sequencing example there. Whereas like if you do the planning up front, you're going to increase your chances of success. Um, Conway's law applies here. I don't know if you or your audience are familiar with Conway's law, but it's a
I'm no,
your
I'm not.
software.
Please explain.
Yeah, your software will mirror your org structure, and
Uh,
I'm paraphrasing there.
Interesting.
Uh,
Okay.
so you want to design your teams around the architecture you want, not the architecture you have. And I extend that to product as well. The product you want, the architecture you want, you're going to design your teams around that. So there's a lot of sequenced strategy that goes up front before you start building that team out from a product and technology perspective. And that was more of my experience at Fight Camp. It wasn't so much about scaling teams and people; it was uh, a new product that needs to come out. And when you think about a startup and all the things they need to go through or have in place for that product launch to go well, to support the scale that comes with it, you start looking at things like deployability, observability, standardization on tools and process. You look at things like uh, architecture health, right? So that you're sequencing those things up front. A lot of the kinds of things you might not think about, and maybe as a startup, you don't have to think about all of them because you're moving fast. You're going to
Mhm.
break a few things on the way there.
Yeah.
But in my experience, the more you can sequence, the better off you are. Sometimes sequencing just means acknowledging the risk that you're taking on, and then just moving forward from that point of view.
Absolutely. You mentioned a couple of things there. I want to go deep into that. So you mentioned scaling teams, and your teams are a reflection of the architecture you want to build. I always
Correct.
thought it's the other way around.
You know, it can be if you look at it from a perspective of you're building teams, you're onboarding people,
Right.
and assume you have a specific architecture in place. When I say architecture, I'm infrastructure, everything from infrastructure, code to documentation to internal processes,
All right.
right? And it's if you're going to onboard new hires, let's say you're going to double the size of your team, um, they're going to that process of scaling is going to magnify whatever that existing architecture process
Gotcha.
workflow is, and
Understood.
it's either a good one or it's a bad one, or you
Understood.
don't know. So like
Okay.
even worse is you're not sure, you don't know. So if you kind of take a step back and say, hey, um, do I know what I'm magnifying
Yeah.
as I scale? And most of the time, what exists right now was suitable for the current size or scale of your company. It did its job. It did what it was supposed to do. And if you're scaling, you're probably outgrowing
Hmm.
that original design. So you have to have an idea or plan of what the new design will be.
Yeah.
You want to have some of that in place, or moving in that direction, so that when these people onboard, they understand that they're not moving into the current state. They're coming on board while the ship is moving so that they can help the company get to that new state. They need to know what that new state is.
Understood. I really
Yeah,
appreciate you explaining that. It makes sense in a couple of scenarios that I've been trying to understand. Nvidia CEO, Elon Musk, all these big players, right? Highly effective individuals that we all got to learn from. I mean, like them,
sure.
don't like them, but they are productive, effective. No one can argue
Correct.
that. What you said makes perfect sense, Rick, in sense of, hey, just like money, just like AI, it's just an amplifier of what you have.
Correct.
So, as a founder, as an entrepreneur, when you're starting something new, understand you got to build the right infrastructure, framework, whatever you want to call it. The culture that you want your people to represent needs to be on top of what's already there. But if you don't have something already, bring in few people, right? um, Mr. Jensen does this, right? He has about 60 direct reports under him. So what you
Hmm.
just said makes perfect sense. If you can't build that architecture yourself, build in someone like Rick,
Correct.
build that infrastructure, build that framework.
Yep.
Now talk about the values, culture, so people can scale on the framework and in the culture and values that you're helping them with. So
Correct. Yep. Yep.
that makes perfect
Absolutely.
sense in my head, at least, because I thought it should
Good.
have always opposite. Cool.
Yeah.
Rick, I have another question on the entertainment to health pipeline. So you went from EA and gaming
Yeah.
to Motor Trend Media, right? Um,
Yep.
all entertainment adjustment. What do health technology founders misunderstand about building the products that need to be addictive and healthy at the same time?
Yeah. That's a great question. If so, interestingly, when you think of let's look at it from an angle of like a uh, digital transformation, right? The company's always changing, whether it's gaming, health, whatever it is. The common, let's take the common factor in all scenarios, and this applied regardless of my work history. In the end, you're playing with customer expectations, right? So if you look at the recent growth in health and fitness, things like wearables, equipment, much of
Hmm.
it gamified,
Yep.
right? So there's a kind of a connection there. Um, Consumers, company aside, product aside, the consumers end up paying more attention to things like telemetry,
Hmm.
and they might not be conscious of it, but they end up growing accustomed to having more and more of their health data available to them in near real time. Um, so now when you're looking at whether it's health, connected fitness, gaming, what is the customer experience? What is the expectation that's being set? Um, uh, Make a comparison, right? If you compare a traditional health provider where it could take hours, days, sometimes weeks to hear back about something health related, um, even though these large health providers they're investing
Yep.
heavily in AI, new patterns, somewhere a convergence is inevitable
Hmm.
between the different areas. When you start looking at it and saying, okay, how do I know as an organization, even just my engineering team, is in good standing, is healthy? You see the signals. They're paying attention to the intersection of speed to value, data, protected data, all the things your customers uh, care about. So if you're looking at it from customer expectation, health from an engineering and company standpoint is how customer centric are they? How customer centric are the things they're building? I hope that answers your question.
It did. It
Yeah.
did.
Okay,
Uh,
good, good. Yeah.
you really
Um,
need to have both aspects, components from what you said, the actual delivery part, but then the
you,
entertaining, engaging, addictive part as well.
you do, right? Because in the end, um, if you think about so ultimately I learned things like timing and communication, for example, are
Mhm.
strategies, not logistics.
Fair enough.
So there's an equation you need to get right that's very customer centric.
Hmm.
And whether you acknowledge that or not, you want to be on the right side of the equation. The companies that and teams that have that customer centric element, regardless of what industry they're in, they're gonna fare better. And if you drill down and look at, okay, this is a customer centric company or team, as you dive deeper, you're going to see the signals of wow, this is a healthy team, this is a healthy product, they're doing things the right way.
Hmm. Yep. Yep. Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that, Rick.
Yeah,
I
no
want
problem.
to take a step back, ask a follow up question on the on
Sure.
what you said earlier. So decision right mapping. So you specifically talk about this, right?
Yeah.
So founders can transfer authority without losing clarity.
Yeah.
But most people have never heard that term. Give us a quick version or 5 minute version as long as you wanna, because this is, I felt very very interesting when you kept talking about this decision right
Yeah.
mapping. So please expand.
Yeah. It's I think it's one of the most common bottlenecks I see in organizations of all sizes. More common in startups that are transitioning to a more mature organization, but usually, if you're thinking of a small team, a newer company, founders and early hires very involved in everything. And what happens is you establish a culture or habit where key people are making most of the decisions
That's right.
all the time. Worst case scenario, CEO, founding CEO, everyone's afraid to make a decision unless that person gives the sign off or makes the ultimate decision.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, and you end up with a few scenarios there. One, you have a founder with decision fatigue. Two, if they're gone for whatever reason, if they're missing, if they're sick, who knows
Hmm.
what might happen, decisions stop. Um, Third thing you run into there is that as your company grows and scales, you end up with areas of the organization that have their own subject matter experts, people with a lot of experience, everything from billing to sales, go to market strategies, customer support, on and on and on. Um, your decisions, the closer they are to those folks and the quicker they are made, um, the better off you're going to be, even if some of those decisions are wrong, because some of the best decisions will get made with data. And if you're not taking a lot of shots, if you're not trying 5, 10 different things, you may not even have the right data uh, to make the right decision. So, a decision right strategy is about having the right person empowered to make decisions that fall within their realm of expertise. It's scary if you're a founder and a CEO and you have uh, big decisions being made at the manager director level. It can be a bit nerve wracking, but if you have a framework, um, making sure these folks know that what, if a decision's reversible,
Hmm.
make it, call it,
Yeah.
make the call. Yeah, no,
Like,
no, no. Let's have a meeting about a meeting to make a decision, or let's wait for so and so. Make the call.
yeah.
If it's reversible, do it. If it works, great. If it doesn't, you've gathered data that now informs the next decision.
Perfect.
Um, so it's sometimes very hard to get people in leadership to embrace
Oh yeah.
the decision right mindset. When it happens, they love it. A lot of founders wish they could have it because they want to be able to step back and zoom out and
Yeah.
strategize at a higher level. But you have to be very intentional
Hmm.
about making that transition, and it's a bumpy one.
Mm.
But again, if you drill down into the companies that you see that are successful, you will
Absolutely.
find some kind of framework around
Absolutely.
a decision right methodology.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you so much for being very, very vocal about it and sharing it here on our
Sure.
podcast as well. End of the day, I heard a couple of things about decision making.
Yeah.
Um, it might not be relevant, but I'll share it with you. It's like when you're born, you look like your parents, but when you're done, you look like your decisions.
I like that. I
Yeah.
like that. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And if some of those decisions may not have been perfect
Yeah.
as you go, but if you're lucky, you have a long life and you're going to get to iterate on
Yeah.
those decisions, and then they'll become
Exactly.
higher quality as you go. Yep.
Iteration is the right word. End of the day, the reason we are here is, hey, Rick, tell me about the mistakes you've made, and your framework
Right.
on making decisions. So that's all I'm
Yes.
trying to learn, right?
Yep.
That's all we are trying to
Exactly.
teach our kids to. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Frameworks are really, really important. Hey, this is what has worked for me. My dad, my peers have taught me. This is how
Right.
I'm perfecting it. You need, your job is not to use it, but make it better. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And it's funny you touch on that. I've learned the importance and value of coaching
Hmm.
uh, uh, from other folks that have done it before, who have been through it before, or you know what, maybe they haven't done it, but they sit at a level, a balcony where they can see the whole playing field
Yeah.
more clearly than some of us can. So having that as your to back you up and feed you the information of what's working and what's not, super valuable.
It's super valuable, super important. We cannot have
Yeah,
ego. We cannot have insecurities.
correct.
You have to ask those questions. People are willing to help. Yeah, you will
E-
have rejections, but that's okay, right? That's part
Yes,
of the game. Yeah, absolutely.
absolutely. Yep.
Yeah. It reminds me of what Jeff Bezos once said, right? In one of his speeches, he said, at his level, he gets to make one decision every other year. He's looking forward to next 2 3 years, and
Yeah.
really, all these executives under him, they are getting paid those huge amounts of dollars to make 2 or 3 good decisions per year.
Yes. Yep.
So that's the importance of what you said right there. That is
Exactly.
important. Yeah. It's a visibility, it's a framework, collecting the
Yep.
data, listening to people, asking questions, and building those decision frameworks so people can, you can coach people so they can run on their own, right?
Yep.
That's the
And
important.
they're teachable. You're already training your teams and your employees on a bunch of other things. They need to be trained on
Absolutely.
that front as well. Yep.
Yep, yep. So I have so many more questions. We
No,
definitely
no worries.
next
Yeah,
time.
no worries.
Let me see how many I can get extract your knowledge
Right on.
today.
Sounds good.
You say you protect experimentation bandwidth, right?
Yeah.
So my question to you is, how do you convince a founder burning cash right now that the team needs protected time to do the experimentation iteration part, which you mentioned earlier, when there are like 47 things on the roadmap?
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's a great question. And here's the thing. Like I'm not going to convince a founder that they need more experimentation time, but a team can, right? And most of the time, I'm working with a team to make that apparent. And it's not going to be logic. It's not going to be a conversation. It's going to be uh, it's going to be outcomes. So for example, if I'm on a team and uh, if we are able to experiment and show the outcome of those experiments, and those experiments are happening really fast,
Hmm.
yeah, real fast, and they're teaching us something. They're teaching us something that doesn't work and something that does work.
Yep,
We go back to the high quality decision making process again, right? The more data I have,
that's right.
the better off I'm going to be. So the whole point of the experimentation and doing it quickly is again to gather that data. If a team or company isn't doing it right now, um, I guarantee there will be a history of projects and efforts at a company that have either failed, they just didn't get off the ground, they didn't get finished, um, or maybe they're out there, they're live, they're in production, but they're not gathering the data. They don't really know if it's moving the needle or not. In those scenarios, it's just about transparency. It's like, you know what, let's measure all this, let's get it all on paper.
Yeah.
And when you look at it, you're kind of like, oh wow, I was at bat 20 times, and I think I only hit once,
Hmm.
but I'm not sure,
Yeah,
and I'm not sure because I'm not measuring
that's right.
correctly. All
Yeah.
right, and so that needs to be visible already. What shots are being taken, and if there's none, if you can go into a company and say, how many shots have you taken? How many attempts at something? How many features or products have you released in the last month? And they say one, and you say, you know what? I just talked to a company in your same industry, in your same niche. They're your
Hmm.
competitor, and they're doing 5 a day. It's
Yeah.
like, okay, now I got to pay. Now as a founder, I got to pay attention
Yeah.
to what's going on here.
Yeah.
Um, most teams who are not getting the response they want from a founder
Hmm.
uh, haven't put their experimentation into a system of outcomes.
Interesting.
Um, I guarantee you, if a team embraces modern tools, maybe it's AI, maybe it's something for really fast prototyping, and they're putting things in front of customers and they're getting feedback early on very early iterations, and all that feedback is organized in a way where someone can look at that and say, wow, that doesn't feel like the right direction, or oh boy, I didn't know that, we better double down on that. If you can put 3 or 4 scenarios like that in front of a founder, they're going to want to see more.
Absolutely.
Right? It's like they
Yeah.
want to see it. Um, if you just talk about it and say, hey, we need more time for experimentation, everybody needs more time.
Yeah.
There just isn't any, right?
Yeah.
It's yeah, what we need is more outcomes, more data, more shots.
Absolutely.
um, so I encourage any team that wants to convince a founder that experimentation time is as important as shipping. You need to build that system. You need to put that flow together. You need to start small
Hmm.
and show what an outcome of experimentation looks like. Get
Yeah.
better at doing it quickly.
That's right.
I don't think there's a founder on the planet that's going to discourage you from giving them good data that helps them make great decisions.
Absolutely.
So you may not get permission up front. You might need to ask for forgiveness
Yeah.
later, but um, if you're on a good team with a good product manager, you need to put the system in place
That's
for
right.
experimentation. And if you're not, in the end, if your experimentation doesn't include talking to your customer, you're really not experimenting.
Uh,
You're just coming up with ideas and seeing if something sticks.
Absolutely. That's so true. So it brought me back so many memories from what you shared. So when I was an engineer, I just wanted to solve problems. I don't want to talk to anybody, leave
Sure.
me alone, right?
Yeah.
To your point, end of the day, everyone has a value that's they're bringing to the customer, right? You
Correct.
just have to
Yes.
connect those dots, quantify the metrics, so everyone sees that value.
Correct. Yes.
So true. And yeah,
Yeah.
what you said is true. If you want to manage something, you got to start measuring it, right? If you're not putting it on paper or tracking your time, the results, yeah, it could be completely opposite of what you thought, but at least start measuring it so you can manage it better, iterate, make it better.
Right. Right. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Um, I I learned real quick that most technical decisions or technical endeavors or the things that engineers are working on, they're just they're customer experiences in disguise as technical work and technical
Yeah,
challenges, and we forget that connection. And if we're not experimenting, we probably won't ever make that connection.
that's right.
That there's a domino effect that goes all the way to the customer.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. We all have to show in numbers, collect the data, iterate on top of
Yes,
it.
correct.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely. I want to dig more into it, but then I have
Yeah,
another important question for you.
go for it.
So I don't want to take companies' names, but you left a full-time VP of engineering role, right, to go fractional. I guess what's the honest math here? When does a company actually need a fractional CTO versus just hiring a senior engineer manager for half the cost?
Yeah, you know what? That's a great question too. The math is going to be different for different companies in different stages. I would say that we're kind of going back to decision making and strategy here, and data gathering. Um, Most of the time, an organization knows they need the help. Your first instinct is going to be headcount, adding more people to the team. Uh, when you start thinking of anything beyond that, it feels like outsourcing, or you're hiring a consultant, whatever it might be, to build uh, on that knowledge, so you know if you're heading in the right direction. Most of the time, that extra headcount, whether it's a senior engineer all the way up to director, VP, CTO, whatever it might be, um, you feel like that person's going to answer all those questions. The truth is, everybody has a gap.
Oh yeah.
And the gap is either industry specific, it's unique to your organization, uh, whatever it might be. And most of the time, most of the CTOs I meet, they're a lot of them do generalize, but they're usually experts or very well experienced in one area, um, which is fine. Uh, you want to augment that. You want to look at your organization as a whole, look at where the gaps are. Not all gaps need to be filled with headcount. What you need to do is augment your knowledge gap. Um, when I think about all the work I've done in the past, I've never been in just, regardless of what my title was, I was never just kind of pigeonholed into one area.
Yeah.
I was helping across the whole organization, primarily because I was able to see where those gaps are, and help figure out a strategy for filling those. So like for me, the fractional CTO move felt organic, like it felt like the right next move. And it was just so obvious to me, at least, that looking back, half the time, I probably shouldn't have hired a lot
Yeah.
of the people I
Yeah.
hired full time, just from the cost of onboarding, from benefits, to training, and then having that people as a part of the team. It's great, but looking back, I realized what I was missing. What the
Yeah.
gap really was the knowledge
Absolutely.
there, and companies can get that, uh, in a more affordable fashion now for the time you need it. Right? It's like, I would even encourage folks nowadays, like if you're going to make that VP hire, that CTO hire, uh, let's go back to earlier in our conversation. Um, are you sequencing correctly? Have you put all the right things in place so
Yeah.
that person's going to succeed?
That's right.
If you haven't, bring someone in temporarily. Get that
Absolutely.
sequencing ready, get it done.
Yeah.
That person now inherits a system that they can run with.
That's right.
So, just from a strategy perspective, I learned very quickly, especially in working. I was at companies working with fractional leaders. I learned real quick that what they were bringing helped set us up
Absolutely.
for that next headcount, that next decision, that next strategy, whatever it might be.
That's right. So thank you for answering that question. I know it's
No
not
problem.
completely contextual, but it definitely helps whoever you're trying to serve in future, Rick. Because right now, I feel like there's a lot of education that needs to happen. People
Sure.
always are not sure should they bring in fractional or full time or somebody else. This
Correct.
this this insight will definitely help them make that decision. The main difference I'd like to see is consultant is someone who's always getting you the result and then renewing the contract. But fractional is more like you said, the strategy side, right? It's your strategic growth partner. It's from the
Yeah.
inside, right?
I'll,
Without the
I'll,
cost of
I'll,
full time.
yeah. And I'm great. I'm glad you brought that up. I'll add to that. There's kind of a stigma that might come from the consultant phrase in general, especially with mid-level or larger size companies who have plenty of experience with consultants. A lot of times a good consultant will come in. The outcome is it's it's a deck. It's slides that say, okay, here's what I found. Here's your problem. Here's what I would do next. If you're working with a good fractional, whatever CTO or whomever, most of the times you're buying an outcome. So you're not going to get that slide, that deck. You are going to get, here is the problem. Here's what needs to be done. Here's how I'm going to do it with your team.
That's
and
right.
here's when you'll see that outcome.
Perfect.
So that distinction is very different. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Rick, funny enough, I have a name to this method. It's called GPS. So I talk the same way with my kids as well.
Uh-huh.
You're getting paid not to do chores, but you're getting paid to find the gap. Every
Yes.
conversation, every person has a gap.
Yep.
Connecting the
Yes.
dots, what you said earlier, every conversation, it's to expose the gap. It could be a knowledge gap, a skill gap,
Correct. Yeah.
motivation gaps. We are not motivational speakers, but if there is a knowledge gap or a skill gap, we can definitely come to the second level, which is planning and strategy, which is the
Yes.
fractional CTO like you
I
will
like that.
help out. Hey, I can build you the process and the systems, which is the third layer, GPS. But before that, you need to plan and strategize. And then for that,
Yeah.
I need to know the gap. So GPS
Yes.
is how I put
I
it. And
like that.
then
Yeah. I might steal that.
absolutely go for it. So I encourage my kids, you want to get paid? Good. Go find me the
Yeah.
gaps. You don't even have
Yeah.
to do them.
Yeah.
Just find the gaps, something you can make better, faster, cheaper. Bring me
Correct.
the gaps, and then you're
Yeah.
all becoming that
Yeah.
leaders, entrepreneurs.
Awesome.
I know we are way past our time. I got lost in the time.
No,
Um,
no worries. No worries.
I really
If you're,
appreciate your time, Rick. Thank you
yeah.
so much for the trust. What I'll do is I have more questions. I will send
Yep.
you all the resources, the recording, the editing clips, and everything. You do a review. You let me know if we are good to go. But I'd
Cool.
really love to schedule another call and the rest of the questions that I'll send your way. So take a look at them.
Sounds good, man. Awesome. I enjoy
Thank you
it.
so much, Rick. I'll see you and
All
then
right.
I'll connect with you.
All right, Bobby. Thank you. All
Bye.
right. Bye bye.